It's time now for our political roundtable here on OTR, and joining us this morning, Democratic analyst Marianne Marsh, Republican analyst Rob Gray. Good morning, guys. Great to see you.
All right, guys, let's start with the Massachusetts Senate race. It is still over a year away, but there is some more heated talk we just discussed with Steve Kerrigan of a possible primary. So we know, of course, Senator Markey is running for re-election next year. Congressman Seth Moulton apparently reportedly considering a challenge to him as well. Ayanna Pressley, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, has not said one way or the other, but hasn't endorsed anybody in the race. And Jake Auchincloss ruled it out. All right, so Marianne, what chased Auchincloss out of the race? Because you were convinced he was going to run.
I was convinced.
And then what's the, can anyone defeat Markey of these other two who are left?
You know, there was a rumored, and I'm emphasize rumored, meeting between Jake and Seth to decide which one of them was going to take.
Because they're both kind of middle of the road Democrats.
Veterans go down the list, right? So Seth is going to run against Markey. There's no question about that. He's, we believe, done polling. He's looked like he cut an ad. I mean, there's a series of signs there. Markey thinks he can win because he beat Joe Kennedy 6 years ago. But that would be the wrong lesson to take, because 6 years with Donald Trump now back in the White House, it might as well be 60. And Markey, surprisingly, has $2 million in the bank, which is exactly what Seth Moulton has. And this is after 50 years in Congress. He hasn't raised the money. We'll see. He needs to pick up his race now if he's going to win. Seth Moulton, we'll see how he fares across the state. He's been able to get he too beat an incumbent in that district. Well liked there, had some troubles there, you know, recently over some comments he made. We'll see how he does as he goes around the state. But the one to keep your eye on is Ayanna Pressley, because if Seth Moulton gets in, I could see her getting in the race. And if she gets in, she's the prohibitive favorite. All she has to do is win her congressional district. She'll do well out in the Happy Valley, Southern Berkshires, Cape Cod. Keep your eye on Ayanna Pressley.
So Rob, is Markey vulnerable? He is 79, will be 80 by the time of the election.
Listen, his opponent's silver bullet, really silver-haired bullet, is Markey's age. And you mentioned it, Marianne mentioned it. He's been in Washington since 1976. He'll be 86 at the end of his Senate term. I agree with Marianne. Pressley would be the favorite if she gets in.
Next item, former FBI Director James Comey is being charged for lying to Congress despite a lack of evidence. Earlier this week, prosecutors summarized their findings, saying that there is no probable cause. The statute of limitations would have expired on Tuesday. The Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on social media, and I'm quoting here, "No one is above the law." The investigation began after President Trump renewed calls for prosecution. So, Rob, is it fair to categorize it this way? And is this anything more than about revenge?
It is revenge. It's political revenge. And listen, Trump fired the U.S. attorney in Virginia who didn't want to bring an indictment, replaced that U.S. attorney with a crony who's bringing an indictment. So
about an 8-sentence long indictment, by the way.
That's right. That's right. So that's what it is. And what I worry about is the midterms, because if you look at Trump doing this, he's minus 10 on his job approval now. He was above the surface. He was above 50 in February. So I think a lot of this stuff is going to accrue and could hurt Republicans in the midterms.
Marianne?
We are well past Richard Nixon's enemies list, and it looks quaint compared to what Donald Trump's doing. And the problem now is, now that Trump has done this, the rule of law is out the window. And he can do this now to anybody for any reason. And that makes us Venezuela, basically.
But don't you think the voters will make him pay for that?
If we have an election, in theory, yes.
There is one scheduled.
If we have an election.
If we have an election. But what everyone should really look at, I loathe Comey, loathe him. And he is part of the reason we are here today with Donald Trump. Because of what he did to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. That said, this should not have happened, and we need to soon bring back everything, because we're going to lose the rule of law, and I would argue we did this week with the indictment of Comey.
All right, President Trump signed an executive order clearing the path for a sale of TikTok to American investors, largely, about 80% of the American part of the app. The deal's far from complete. It would hand control to kind of a cherry-picked group of U.S. investors. Marianne, the White House has not said exactly who is on that, other than Oracle, which is run by the Ellison family. Larry Ellison is a big Trump supporter. We're hearing it might be the Murdochs as well. It looks like the White House is hand-selecting a group of rich Trump allies.
Imagine that. I mean, TikTok is the national security threat. It always has been. It still will be under this, because ByteDance will have a 20% or less. But to your point, The real problem here is the person who controls the algorithms controls the information. And everybody getting picked on that board, Ellison family, who now owns CBS and may own CNN on top of all of this, the Murdochs, who have the Wall Street Journal, Fox, New York Post, all supporters. Elon Musk may have a stake in this, and one wonders if that was a conversation that was had during the Charlie Kirk service. Go down the list. So it's all Trump supporters who are going to control the most powerful social media instrument on the market, and that's in addition to all the other things I listed, the Washington Post, the LA Times, and others.
Rob, Republicans would be screaming if a Democratic president hand-chose investors for something like this.
I agree. And, remember that Chinese sky balloon that kind of limped across the country a few years ago? TikTok is 1 million Chinese spy balloons over every city and town, monitoring everybody, spying on Americans, figuring out where they go, what they do. It's a national security threat. Republicans and Democrats should be aligned on this. I don't trust the tech titans to keep this data away from the Chinese.
Next item, the state is sharing the beginnings of a new graduation requirement after MCAS was removed at the ballot box. It was last week that state leaders said that they are coming up with 6 broad categories of skills that they want every student to master before getting that high school diploma. Between now and the end of the year, a council appointed by the governor will come up with specific standards. So, Rob, let me start with you. Is a ballot question and then this process the best way for all of this to play out?
No, and the ballot question was put on and millions of dollars spent to get it passed by the teachers' unions. Why does the teachers' union protect the weakest teachers who are failing our kids? That's what this is designed to do. They pay dues to the union leaders. It's all a big vicious cycle, and kids are left on the outside. Higher standards help kids.
Marianne.
I think the process they're going through, where they're listening, going around the state, talking to everybody, MCAS was so divisive, it almost crippled all of education. So by getting everybody on board, getting a consensus, working through the commission, and a lot of support on Beacon Hill already. You saw the individual legislators who are supporting this. I think it's instrumental to having strong public education.
Best or worst week? That's next. Stay with us.